Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this call. I'm super excited and thankful to be here. I'm very pleased that the Citizens Climate Lobby is offering a session like this. My name is Henry Polite. I am here as a concerned citizen, and I am here as someone who cares about the climate, like we all do. This presentation, I'm going to be talking about reframing the climate crisis because I believe this is very badly needed. Today, unfortunately, many individuals and professionals in the sustainability field are currently working on the climate crisis with the assumption that we can respond to it sufficiently to sustain our civilization. But I'm going to argue that in reality, no matter what we do, whether it's today or whether it's in 20 years, there will be severe consequences on our society due to climate change. In addition to this, I'm going to argue that the information which I just presented will be denied by many, and I will argue that to reduce harm and to not make matters any worse, we need to apply the deep adaptation agenda. Scientific consensus, which I'm sure everybody here is aware of, is that we need to stay beneath 2 degrees warming of global temperatures to avoid dangerous and uncontrollable levels of change. In the year 2050, if it's not noticeable already, the effects of climate change will be even more so noticeable. Research suggests that there will be an increase in heart rate problems, strokes, preterm births, and infant mortality from raised temperatures. In addition to this, it's clear that we have progressed too far already to avert disruptions to ecosystems, because if CO2 removal from the atmosphere could work at scale today, it would not prevent massive damage to marine life, which is locked in for many years because of acidification in the ocean. And now, we can never truly know the future. We can see the trends, we can see the data, and we can see that we have done a little too little, a little too late in responding to the crisis to be able to comfortably live in our civilization. Initially, this information can be very overwhelming, shocking, and scary, and it leads to many people to ask, okay, why should we even keep striving and trying if civilization is going to end and everyone we care about is going to die, or however dramatic you want to say it? And the root of this question actually lies in a self-identity crisis. This actually makes sense, because if somebody has always thought of themselves as having self-worth through promoting the public good, then information that appears to take away that image will be difficult to take in. This actually tells us that the striving is based on rationale maintaining self-identities to the things which we value. This is very basic human nature, but we need to be aware of this, and we need to change this so we can progress and then apply the deep adaptation agenda. Another reason why denying information that states that the collapse of civilization due to climate change is inevitable is because of our fear of death. George Marshall, in his Psychology and Climate Denial, explains how our fear of death means that we don't give our full attention to things that remind us that, we're going to die. Because of basic human evolution and perceptions of threats, we have actually wired our brains to ignore many things which show and are indicative that we are going to die. Climate change is obviously a big force in this. I'm brutally aware that many of us in this presentation are aware that if we don't respond to climate change and do more right now, there will be massive consequences on our society. Again, to reiterate my point, I'm saying that we need to accept that no matter what we do, there will be severe consequences on our society. But that we need to accept this so we can reframe the issue using the deep adaptation agenda. Now, I'm sure many of you are skeptical about factually stating that society will perish in the upcoming years. Now, let's say, for the sake of argument, hypothetically, the inevitability of social collapse, it can be debated, and we can debate the inevitability of social collapse as long as we want, and this will not get anywhere. But I'm saying it seems to be a likelihood that collapse in one way or another is inevitable in the coming years. And so, at the very least, if you are still in denial for the rest of this presentation, engage with it as if maybe this could happen, and maybe we will need to use the deep adaptation agenda. Unlike climate change, the deep adaptation agenda aims to it's based on acceptance of the impending transitions of the environment. Instead of posing the question of how can we keep striving to change climate change, we can propose 3 questions with the intent to reframe. It's resilience, relinquishment, and restoration. Thinking about these questions both on a personal level and on a community level, which we're doing right now, will reduce harm and not make matters worse. Now, let's look at these. Resilience. How do we keep what we really want to keep? Relinquishment. What do we need to let go in order to not make matters worse? Restoration. What can we bring back to help us with the coming difficulties and tragedies? Thinking about these questions on a personal level and on a communal level will help us reframe in a way that involves acceptance, which I believe is key. In conclusion, because many environmentalists are still working on climate change with the assumption that they can respond to it sufficiently in time to change our civilization, denial sets in once information is presented which contradicts the idea that we can, in fact, change in time. This denial happens for many reasons, but the one I discussed involves self-identity issues and the fear of death, which is hardwired into the human brain. To be able to reduce harm and not make matters worse, I argue that we need to incorporate the deep adaptation agenda into our thinking instead of just adaptation. Emotional difficulties with realizing the tragedy is coming are completely understandable, but we need to overcome these difficulties so we can explore what the implications may be for our lives. I want to thank everybody for listening to this and letting me participate. I really appreciate the team here at CCL, and I'm excited to hear everyone else and everybody else's thoughts on climate change in this conference. Thank you.